All right, so is everybody ready to go?
Are we ready? We're good? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone with their cell phones to place them on mute. And when you're not a part of the meeting, if you could put your computer on mute so it doesn't interrupt anybody else trying to talk, that would be great. Remind council a declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. Speak up then. I haven't seen any written declarations. And we're going to move into introduction of new staff member, Laura Stone. Welcome, Laura.
Thank
Bob,
you very much.
Bob, do you have an introduction there?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, I'll commence a brief introduction and then I'll turn it over to our chief building official to complete the introduction. But it's my pleasure to introduce to council and to the community Laura Stone as the newest member of our team. Laura will be working as our land use planner and comes to us with many years of land use planning experience, most recently as the junior planner in the Township of North Kawartha, where she implemented a community improvement plan and worked through a number of planning applications. So I welcome Laura and I ask the chief building official to conclude our introduction.
Thank you, Bob. I'd like to welcome Laura to the Building and Planning Department. I'd like for all the staff to welcome her. We look forward to working with her and moving forward in land use planning and economic development, and great addition to our team. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I am looking so forward to getting started with the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen.
Well, that's good because I think there's lots to do. We'll have a bit of a curve to catch up, but once you catch up, there's a ton of stuff that we're looking forward to. So welcome to the team, and hopefully one day we won't have to do this all by virtual meetings and we'll be back in the office. So I see that just around the corner. So welcome.
Thank you.
So, Terry?
Yes, I'd also like to welcome you, Laura. You have a big job ahead of you here, so welcome aboard. We'll give you all the help we can.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to it.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll move on. We have minutes here from the June 1st meeting. I'll look for a motion to receive those minutes. Moved by Councilor Webb and seconded by Councilor Ellis. All in favor? Carried. Next, we have no delegations or presentations. Larry?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a brief comment. Was reviewing our minutes from last meeting, and something I just wanted to comment on. There was a great report from our acting CAO and staff regarding the measures put in place to address our situation with COVID. And we just briefly received that without many comments. And I would like to comment on it because when you read that report, you realize all the things that staff have had to do to comply with COVID-19. A lot of it you don't see. Council is not even aware, at least I wasn't aware of a lot of it. And most definitely the general public wouldn't be aware of a lot of it. But there is one heck of a lot of work done to comply to COVID-19. So I just wanted to recognize that report from our minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Yeah, and that's something I was surprised at the last meeting. It was in there and there wasn't a lot of recognition there, but yeah, it was a well done report, and it should help council understand what staff's been up against. So thank you. With that, we have some staff reports for information. One was with Brian Andrews with capital projects from the Supervisor of Infrastructure, the Building Department activity report, and Wendelin's Treasurer General update. I'll look for a motion to receive those. Moved by Councilor Webb.
With the comment, Jim.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Okay, go ahead, Hart.
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment Ryan on the presentation here. I like the table, the way everything's laid out. I especially like over here on the side where he's got, he's designated whether it's a lead or a second for all these projects. So I think it'll make it easier for at least us here on council in terms of who we should communicate with in terms of any questions we have on these projects. So yeah, I just want to give kudos to Ryan. Very well laid out and very easy to make your way through this. So good job, Ryan.
Thanks, Hart. I think that's what happened last week with the information from Bob there, that report. It was in a report for information, and that's what happens. It kind of gets bypassed when we just receive it. So yeah, it is another well done report. So Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one here for Ryan. Any word on the sanitary sewer repairs between manhole 115 and 16?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't been able to nail down a meeting date yet with Carchidi, but we did get all the necessary information that we needed to make better decisions on what we can do. So it's still moving forward. Just with this COVID-19 pandemic going on right now, we haven't been able to negotiate any further deal at this time.
Okay, I just wondered, and I didn't know whether we're going to go back out to tender or has he come up with a better price? That was my concern.
Yeah, so the last time we spoke at council, I brought a report and just basically outlined what some of the next steps were we're going to take with Carchidi to see if we could negotiate a price based on some new information. We did get the geotech report done, and they did confirm a few other things for us. So once we have that discussion with them, we'll have a better idea. And if it doesn't work out that we can't get it within our budget, then we'll certainly go back and look at future options for that project.
Okay, thanks, Ryan.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux, and then I think Councilor Ellis had his hand up, but I'm not sure. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well done. The reports are well done. Thank you very much for that. Just one question on our chief building official's report. The corporate vehicle assigned to the building department has traveled so many. Should that be two vehicles, John, on the mileage?
You're muted out, John. There you are.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is one vehicle. The second building department vehicle presently is being used by Parks and Rec to help them with the social distancing requirement of staff. So presently we're only using one vehicle, plus I'm using my personal vehicle to do inspections.
Thanks for that, John. I didn't realize that.
Okay, Councilor Ellis.
Yeah, just looking at Ryan's report there, on the items that are being continued to be worked on, sorry. I don't see anything in there regarding the drainage issue on the 6th line, Ryan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a list that I put together after the budget was approved in March. We're still looking into that issue, but these are just all the issues, or these are all the projects that were approved at council during the budget meetings. So that's why that's not on here at this time, but we are still looking into that issue, and it will be brought to council.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Okay, Hart.
Just one question for John on his report. Yeah, John, obviously probably because of COVID, I noticed the permit fees are way down from last year. Just a question, moving ahead, do you think we're on pace to recoup those and be, at the same pace come say September or early fall in terms of inflow of cash?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Webb, I think it's going to be hard to know at this point. There's so many different things that affect this right now. And we're definitely seeing just in the last couple of weeks a big increase, but whether we'll be able to recoup it is questionable. If the long-term care project moves ahead, then we will be on target. But if that one project doesn't move ahead, we'll likely be under budget by the end of the year.
Thank you, John.
So that kind of goes, I was going to ask Wendolyn that on your report, Wendolyn, where it says that the COVID has affected us about $13,000 or something like that. Some of these costs, I think, would be associated with COVID too, as far as our building permits. And that might be something in the future to keep track of. If we are down, we may even have to look at some of the rules around the permits, because I know there's some people that are leery on getting a permit because they're having trouble getting a contractor because of all the stuff that's been going on. So there might be something there that we're going to have to look at to kind of help the people feel comfortable enough that if they were thinking of getting a permit, but they've kind of waived the idea of building this year because of issues around getting contractors, it might be something to keep things moving and, you know, encourage people that if they were thinking of it, let's keep moving forward, that they won't be like that year, after a year, you have to reapply or something. Is that right, John?
So, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is in the Building Code Act there, if the construction hasn't started within 6 months, then the permit can be revoked. We haven't been doing that. The last 3 years, we've averaged about 300 permits a year. And as of Friday, we had issued 65 for the year. So we are somewhat behind, but considering we've lost 2 years or 2 months of the building season, it's questionable whether we'll be able to regain it in the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we did move, did we move those reports, Bob? Sorry.
Yes, we did. Through you, Mayor Martin, moved by Councilor Webb, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Okay, and all in favor of those reports? Carried. Okay, so we have some reports here for follow-up. Oh, go ahead.
I think Barry was first, Jim.
Okay, Barry.
Yeah, Wendolyn, maybe I'm in the wrong spot here in my agenda, I don't know, but have you applied for the Federation FCM grant for sidewalks and?
That's the next one, Barry.
Okay,
That's the next one, yep.
all right.
So, Hart, you had something?
Well, I was just going to further your comment, Jim, in terms of kind of cataloging this so we can measure the impact that COVID's had on, say, the entire organization. Because in Wendolyn's report, the 655,000, Wendolyn, can you give an estimate on like a percentage of what that is and what we would, like, is that about 80-90% of what we'd usually take in, or?
Well, we normally, it's around, without paperwork in front of me, around 12 million total, with the 6,000 raised from taxes. So it would be based on a percentage of the 12 million for
Okay.
financial indicators from the province.
Yeah.
So
well,
we're not too bad off. Like usually anywhere I'll run from, we've been running from 400,000 to 500,000 at year end.
mhm.
So it's not really huge amounts over that.
Okay. Well, I guess my question would be is, say you compared the 655 on the taxes receivable of this year to the same June installment of 2019. Like, is that comparable? Are we running a lot lower? Are we running higher? You know?
I didn't specifically look at last year's, but normally it fluctuates throughout the year. And I was expecting maybe that would have been more around 800,000. So I was quite pleased that it was around 655.
I understand you don't have the numbers right now. I'm just trying to gauge in terms of, and what I was going to say, Jim, in terms of all the departments. Like I was thinking, obviously we've talked about building, but even say the waste, right, at the garbage, in terms of measuring the impact, because I have to believe the numbers there would be down as well. So if
We
we
might
could,
be in money.
okay,
We might even be in money there because we usually lose on it. So
Well, that's true, but I'm just saying if we could, get an overall picture of how this has affected us, I think moving forward too, in discussions with the province, they'll be asking these questions, right? So if we have the information, it'd be nice to have on hand to give them, say, this is where we've been affected, this is where we need help.
Yeah, I'll be tracking those numbers over the summer and see how that washes out, to see if building, when things start opening up, etc. For fire, because of the Havelock Jamboree, there's some losses there for revenue. There's different spots and of course, like waiving the penalty and that type of thing, and to see what the impacts will be on the go forward basis.
Thank you, Wendell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move into staff reports. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Ellis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to John. John, you had commented where you had relaxed some of the rules a little bit due to the situation. Is there anything else that through planning and building that we can relax, if you want to use that word, and get that information out to the general public to start to move things a little quicker?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have posted on the website what our procedures are, so people know that we are issuing building permits and we are doing inspections. We have continued to do inspections throughout the pandemic with personal protective equipment. It was just the in-office visits that haven't been done, but that's worked out quite well doing that, because we've been in contact with all the other municipalities, building departments, and the province is sending us surveys almost weekly on how we're proceeding and where we're at. So we have kept that on the website, and the contractors are all aware because we are still doing inspections. We've already done quite a few this year, and we're continuing to do it, so they know we're still in operation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll try again to move into staff reports with follow-up actions. So the first one we have there was the one Barry was talking about for the FCM grant. Wendland?
Yeah, so council has to authorize myself and staff to pursue and put an application in. So this is just the authorization to do that and to research that and find out what the best, if we're successful, what the best area will be to apply those funds.
Okay. So any questions on that? Barry, do you want to?
Well, the way I read it, it's for sidewalks, is it not?
That's one project that we could do, and I think that would be a really good project if we're successful, because it would just give that much more in the public works area to add to, like, the roads need study and the bridges and culverts. So it gives that one component that we can put all the pieces together.
Okay, we do usually put in 50,000 a year for sidewalks, but we use it somewhere else usually. Excuse me. And so what other area could you use this in from FCM?
Any asset. It could be in facilities or buildings, roads, any asset that we have, the fleet. So I just have to look at the parameters of the grant application as well.
Okay.
Okay, Hart, go ahead.
Do we have a number in terms of the amount of the grant that we'd be applying for? One of them?
I think it's around 50,000, and there's two components where it'd be 80% or 90% funded. So I have to just look at the finer details of that. So there might be a small portion that I would be bringing back to council to fund to get the grant money.
So on an 80 to 90%, are you telling me then the project Like it'd have to be under 100,000 then basically be a small project.
Not necessarily, though, that's the maximum
Yeah,
that they'll fund. So if you had something bigger, I don't think that they would put it aside.
okay.
Okay, Councillor Ellis, and then Deputy Mayor Carroll.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, is there a cutoff date to apply, Gwendolyn?
It's usually within a month or so, so that's why I wanted to come to council right away before I had time to do the actual research on it, so that we could just move it ahead during the summer season, and one of those projects we could do during COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Carroll. You're muted there, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Gwendolyn, if I'm reading this correctly, this is for the asset management plan for more tools for us to understand or to be able to do that plan easier. It's
Yes.
not actually building, right? It's
No, it's more like doing studies or getting more data so that we have that data so that we can make better decisions in the future and know more of how much it's going to cost us for future costs to do certain things.
Thank you, Gwendolyn.
Okay, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion. I don't know if, I think maybe if the rest of council sits on this, maybe till the next meeting and maybe comes up with some ideas of their own. I'm not saying maybe we end up going with the sidewalk project, but I think, I know myself, just here in the discussion today, I've had 2 or 3 different things pop into my head in terms of, you know, maybe other ways that it could be spent. And I was just gonna make a motion if we could maybe bring this back to the next meeting and have everybody come, you know, if they have any different ideas, maybe they don't. Maybe we settle on this. I've had a couple pop into my head here just in the last few minutes, so.
I just wonder if we need specifics or if it's just to apply for the grant. Gwendolyn, what's
Yeah.
do you need specifics as far as from council, or is it just to move forward with the applying for it?
Well, right now I just need the approval to apply for it. And then we can have discussions amongst ourselves to find out which project or which idea council would like to move forward with. But it's just to get the application in at this point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Councillor Pomeroy.
No, I was just going to reiterate what Gwendolyn had said there. I think we should approve the recommendation and get this started, get it underway, and then we can decide after or if we get the grant, then we can decide where we're going to apply it to.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's supposed to work as far as usually with these things, you get it going. And as far as the specifics, we can, like Hart said, come up with some what would be best used for it. But Councillor Ellis had a question. Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
You okay?
You're muted, Larry.
I can't read lips.
I was just going to second Councillor Pomeroy's motion.
Okay. Okay. So Barry moved it and Councillor Ellis seconded it. That sounds funny, but anyways, so we'll get this application rolling. And Hart, like you said, give it some thought and look at what we can use it for, and bring your ideas forward at that time. So
Yeah.
And just a comment that I can put forward, that probably when the application goes in, it'll say something like to further get information and data on the specifics of different municipal assets. So it kind of covers it, and then we can decide from there.
okay. All right. All in favor of the motion? So that's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the clerk with regards to the vacant lot on 1 George Street.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. This is This is a follow-up from the closed session council meeting in which direction was given to staff to proceed with an offer to purchase the vacant lot at the corner of Oak and George Street. I have had verbal discussion via telephone with the owner of that property, and he is amenable to the offer. So it's now presented in open session in order to complete the process properly.
Okay, so the recommendation is, go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with previous comments and accept Mr. Patterson's recommendations. I think we discussed all this before. We're just making a formality that we're going to buy the property.
Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Pomeroy is moving it. Councillor Webb seconding it. Any more comments? All in favor? It's carried. Very good. The next we'll move into correspondence, and I'm just going to catch up here. So we have one action item here, and it's with regards to a resident asking about a couple of bylaws to enact, and it's requesting a township look into a bylaw regarding cats in the village, a limit to how many per household, and also restrictions on letting them run loose on other people's property, plus a bylaw on chickens in the backyard. I thought we had something on that, but I'm not sure there. John, you could probably speak to that, but anyways, there's a couple of things here. So do you have any comments there, John, with regards to this?
Mr. Mayor, we do have a section in our comprehensive land use zoning bylaw that does not allow the keeping of livestock in residential zone properties or in seasonal residential zone properties. So that would be a zoning infraction. We don't have a standalone bylaw that I'm aware of that deals with chickens.
Okay, well, that's something that probably should be. I thought we did have something, but go ahead, Councillor Ellis.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think the chickens are the big issue here. They lay eggs, so that's pretty good. The cats in our municipality, I believe, is the bigger of the two issues. It's something that's been talked about in the municipality through council several times over the years, but there was never any real action taken to address it. So I believe the cats are the big issue here, not necessarily the fact that somebody might have a chicken in its backyard. So I think it warrants good discussion for council regarding the cats. So I'd look to council's input.
Okay, yeah, I know we did talk about it a few years ago with the cats, and I know one of the things was with the animal control. They were a hard thing. They weren't like a dog as far as catching them, but as far as the numbers and everything, I thought, you know, it is a good point that there should be some numbers on there. Go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Ellis. I think this is an issue that's been ongoing for a number of years. It only seems to be getting worse. I'd like to, if we're going to re-examine the cat issue, I'd like to throw dogs in there with dog tags as well. I get numerous questions on why you're only allowed to have a limit of 3 dogs, or, you know, like the bylaws to me are very opaque and unclear. So I think a revisiting of the overall just pet bylaw for the, you know, the township would be in order here, because cats, dogs, I mean, now chickens have been raised. If we're gonna do it, I mean, you know, let's do it all. So
Yeah,
I'd like to see something like that, like not just one off, because the problems keep coming. I brought up dogs because just here, I live over by the school in town. In the last 2 or 3 months, I've seen 4 or 5 dogs with no leashes, no collars, no anything, just wandering through my yard. Now, they didn't really seem sick or stray, but there wasn't anybody chasing them through the neighborhood looking for their dog either. Now, and I've lived here for, I guess, about 10 years now. The last year or two, I'm seeing more of that. I'm seeing more cats in my garden. So, I think it's about time we address some of these issues.
So yeah, okay, Councilor Pomeroy, and then we'll come up with a motion here.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We have had this discussion more than once in the time that I've been on council. And first of all, we have a lot of feral cats in town. You would have to have a bylaw enforcement officer hired full-time to do this. And actually, the lady that complained, I understand, precisely what the problem is. You can choose where you live, but you can't choose your neighbors. The other articles that she had in there, other than cats, I have to support, that part of her complaint on both sides. And I'd be very supportive of that. But as far as the cat bylaw, you'd be running around with like a chicken with its head cut off, trying to catch cats. And it's just not feasible. Like if they were controlled, but they're not. They're in dumpsters. They're all over the place. I understand Hart's idea there, or complaint on the dogs. I don't know why everyone now has to have 2 or 3 dogs. But anyway, they do. And but as far as controlling the cats, I think you're going to have to hire someone, full time, and that isn't what the mandate is. I don't think for council, because it's a neighbor problem that has brought this to light. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think like Councilor Webb said, with regards to the bylaw that's out there, maybe if staff could bring back what we have in place right now, because I know there is issues around the dogs as far as you're allowed to have 3 dogs, but if you have, when you're buying the dog tags, the 3rd permit is more money. And if you're allowed 3, they should be all the same price. So that needs reviewed anyway. So I think the whole thing needs to be maybe looked at. If we could bring it back at, either the next meeting or the meeting after that, what's in place right now, and maybe it needs some fine tuning, because like Councilor Pomeroy said, the cats are a challenge. But that's not saying that we can't do something with them as far as registering how many cats are in a house. The feral cats, I don't know how you'll deal with that. You would have to have someone full time, but it's maybe time to look at what we have in place and see if it needs some tuning. I don't know what you think of that, Councilor Webb.
Yeah, no, I'd be all for that. Like I'm not suggesting I have the answer. All I'm saying is that, like, as probably the rest of council, I'm getting a lot of questions, general bylaw questions, and mostly around, say, animals. So, and as you said, Jim, some of the bylaws I have trouble explaining myself. So if we could maybe provide a bit more clarity, at least, to some of these bylaws, then that would be helpful.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Dro, you had something?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would simply make a motion to have staff bring back a report in the future. I think if they go to other cities, municipalities, they'll find that they've tried their bylaws when it comes to cats, and they'll certainly get a lot of information. So I'll just simply make a motion to have them bring a report back, and council will have to discuss the whole 3 items.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Dro that we bring back the bylaw that's in place and see what we can do with it. A seconder?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councilor Ellis. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay. The rest of the correspondence in there, there was some things with regards to the county, and there's a lot going on there. Now, I have asked for a meeting with the director in the county for roads to get an update on what exactly is getting done this year, because to my surprise, last week when I was up on 44, they pulverized the north end of it and they're resurfacing it. And I was wondering if I missed something, because they kept talking about 48 and all the other things that are going on. I wasn't aware of that one being done. Some of these things aren't in, they're just something as part of the road needs study and it doesn't get brought up at the meeting, or I might have missed something. And, but anyways, we will get an update on the rest of the roads. We do have a lot of projects going on with the county around our township this year. It seems like we're doing pretty well with North River Bridge happening, County Road 48, and I'm trying to get an update on what's happening with the warranty work on 48 from Freeman's Corners, I think it is, to Preston Road. So we'll get an update on that and bring it back to the next meeting. But other than that, the rest of the stuff in things in correspondence there, I'd look for a motion to receive them. Moved by Councilor Ellis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? Carried. Okay, with that, we'll move into, bear with me, our council activity reports. I've proven to myself I'm not a multitasker. I can't do the computer, 2 computers and a piece of paper here. So, so the councilor activity reports there, we have a list of things that council's been doing. It doesn't cover everything, but it's the highlights of what Bob knew that we were up to. So is there any anybody that would like to add anything to that? If not, okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, and to our acting CEO, I apologize for not getting these in, Bob. Well, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I was going to go under new business. The only other one I have under the activity report, Bob, was I did attend an actual meeting in Tweed.
Okay.
I'll bring that up the next time. That's fine.
We can put it on the next report. That's fine.
Thank you.
So we did have minutes from your EOTA meeting there from May 14th.
Yeah.
Dave, if I could get a motion to receive those.
Yeah.
Moved by Councilor Pomeroy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux, that we received the minutes from the May 14th EOTA meeting. And then with regards to mine, the conference calls, I did have a joint services meeting last week. It was a bit of a challenge with the county. For some reason, we did a practice run to do a video meeting, and everything worked out all right. But when we went to do the meeting with the city, the county people were on telephone and the city people were on video because we couldn't get connected. So it presented some challenges, but we did get through it. It was a really busy night because we did that for an hour and a half, and then right into Marion Monsef's meeting to get some updates. Most of those updates, like I've said before, we get them on. It's just the highlights of what was discussed through the week. Dave Smith's meeting was the night before, and we talked about phase 2, and I did ask him the question of when we would be getting into higher numbers, and the way it was kind of put is it's like phase 2 will run for 2 or 3 weeks. Then we could step up to 50 people in the group if things keep going the way they're going. It may move quicker than that. It's hard to say because it is going really well right now. By the end of August, we could be up to 250. You know, and that's kind of the progression that they're looking at right now, and then it would move into 500. As far as anything like by September having more than 500, it's probably not likely. So any of these jamborees and things like that probably won't be able to go, but I'm not saying they'll never happen. That was kind of what my questions were around, whether September's going to open right up or not. It doesn't look like it from what he's seen, but he said we're doing really well with, at the time we only had 80 people on ventilators in Ontario. And we have 6,000 ventilators in the province right now, or almost 6,000 ventilators. So we're doing really well that way. So they're not too worried. They are expecting a second wave, but you know, who knows? It is happening everywhere else. So that's what they're going by, is if it's happening somewhere else, it's probably going to happen here. But daycare is a big issue right now. As you've seen last week, they had their own protest going with the province because they weren't able to, there's no funding for them, and to open up the way they're talking, it's there's no way they can afford to have the numbers that the province is saying and be able to survive. There's no money there for it. So so I think they've extended out a couple weeks. The last I heard is they are looking at frontline workers and some others like that to try and get them back to work, because right now without babysitters, it's causing a lot of challenges for a lot of people because they want to go back to work, but they can't go because there's no babysitters. So so they are working around that, and I would imagine this week something more will come out of that. But with that, that's about all that came out of any of my meetings that I had last week. We did do the police services board meeting on June 8th, and the minutes are here from the January 27th to be received. So I'd look for somebody to move to receive those minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councilor Webb. Is there any questions with regards to that? Dave?
One question and one comment. First of all, on Councilor Webb's first attending at the county council meeting, I had an opportunity to watch it on YouTube, and did a great job. Councilor Webb, looked like you've been there forever, and they threw you right into the fire with a recorded vote right off the first meeting, so it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I think I screwed it up, Dave, the first vote. I was telling Jim that.
No, all right.
Yeah.
Mayor Martin, in your police committee report, police services board report, you're still continuing to talk about the black hat. I thought we would have one by now. What's the holdup?
I think it was the numbers, like, because they were ordered, we ordered them individually, so they're coming out in drips and drabs. Some have received them. Ours should be here very shortly. Yeah, it's just the way it worked out, the way they were rolled out. So, and COVID again caused some challenges around trying to get the product. So I think, Bob, if I'm not mistaken, they should be out in the next couple of weeks here.
We expect so. It has certainly been ordered, and we received confirmation of our order, so it's in process.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So we had a mover and a seconder. All in favor of receiving the police service minutes? Carried. All right, then. With that, we did have a written notice of motion at the last meeting by Councilor Ellis with regards to Fish Hatchery Road. Councilor Ellis, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, as all the council and present staff, some of present staff are aware, the issue with Fish Hatchery Road has been a topic for, well, quite a few years, let's say, put it that way. And the issue is not going to go away. So my intention with that motion, or putting it on our list of other business, was to generate another discussion with council and staff to set up a further meeting which needs to include all the parties. For an example, Autonomy Power, the ministry, people that use the road on a continuous basis, as well as the general public that utilize where that road goes. So it's a start, and I know we're still limited to how we have meetings, but at some point this is going to change where we can have an open public forum meeting. And so it'll give us some time to get our ducks in a row and the people involved that need to be at this meeting. So that's why I put it on and looking for council's input.
Okay. Yeah, it's long overdue. We've talked about this. I think when I first got on council, it's been around since then, which has been quite a while. So it is about time we started looking at this seriously and see if there's anything we can do. So is there any other comments with regards to this? Councillor Pomeroy?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate on what Councillor Ellis has said, but to get all the parties involved, you know, that use the road and have an open meeting. And once we get rid of this Zoom and we can all get together, we have to have somewhere, you know, if this prolongs a long time, I don't know whether it be the upstairs in the arena or I suppose the stone hall will be too small for to hold a public meeting, but the big thing is to get everyone together that's involved in the road, not just the cottagers, you know, it's everyone else that uses it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? So I guess the motion, Bob, here, Councillor Webb?
Well, is there a way we could set up a meeting with the ministry about this, like just with council? Like I know we have AMO coming up and we won't be attending AMO, but I mean, is there a way for us to get ministerial meetings?
Well, this is more for us, our side of things. That'll be part of the discussion as we move forward. But right now it would be to see if there's anything we can do, and then we would look to M&R to be a partner in it.
Yeah.
But as far as this part, go ahead.
All I'm thinking of is we have this issue. We had the issue back in the spring with the loader being in Belmont Lake. I still have a few questions in terms of the protocol with which that was followed. I guess that's the way the province does it, but I still have serious questions about why the loader was left in the lake and the rest of it. So what I'm asking, I guess, is there a way we could have our own separate meeting, you know, I don't know whether it's through Zoom or something with some, maybe not the minister, but somebody from the minister's office about 2 or 3 different issues.
Yeah, like I think that could be a separate thing as far as opening up a meeting with M&R with regards to a couple of different things. Camping's another issue. So
exactly.
I think we could set up a meeting with M&R on a separate motion, but right now, with regards to Fish Hatchery Road and getting something moving for budget, to get a public meeting this year, it would be open to see what the residents are, you know, looking for and what they might be capable of doing to help us with it.
Well, and I understand, obviously a public meeting would be great, but the environment we're in, as you've, you know, referenced earlier, this public meeting might not be able to happen till fall, maybe even winter, right? Unless you conducted some kind of public meeting through Zoom, which I imagine with the number of people that will want to be involved from that road would be almost impossible to have that kind of meeting. But to move it forward, why can't we as a council start these discussions with them? Say, yes, obviously, it's part of the long-term plan. We want to have another public meeting because our residents, you know, have issues that they would like to bring up with you, but at least start the ball rolling and address the 2 or 3 major issues that we've had ongoing here for a number of years. It's not like these have just popped up in the last 6 months, right? And we've met with them numerous times and they continually are failed to be addressed. So,
okay.
You know, the way I look at it is if we don't put the heat on them, we're not going to get any answers. If we just go away and write them a letter every 6 to 8 months, we're going to get the same response and pat on the head we've been getting. So, you know, let's be a little bit more aggressive and try and get into a meeting here.
So what my suggestion would be in other business there, Hart, if we ask for a meeting with the M&R to talk about those things there and keep it separate. You're right, as far as getting them all together in one room might be a challenge right now. But I think, you know, if the numbers go like they are, there might be a chance in late August, beginning of September. If we do it by, you know, like an RSVP type of thing, as long as we know the numbers are below and we could social distance, there might be a possibility. And if we have to do it by Zoom, we'll do it by Zoom. Most of the lake associations are holding their meetings by Zoom now, and it seems to be working okay. It's not the same effect. It is hard. So preferably if we could have a public meeting, you know, but it gets it on the table here now. And I think that's what Councillor Ellis is trying to do here, is just get it on the table so we can get a process going to try and get something moving. But I think in other business, if you bring up about M&R, I think acting CAO Angioni could probably set up something that we could get together with them and talk about a number of things, because you're right, there's between the excavator, camping, I was on the phone again this weekend with campers every weekend, and there's no help from them. The girl that was really good that I talked to from M&R, but and then anything else with M&R, we could talk to them specifically, get a list going to talk to them about this too, like some help with some spots on the road. So, Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I'd kind of like to get the focus back on what we put on the agenda here, and that's the discussion of the road.
Yeah.
I know there's lots of other issues, but the intent was to have a discussion, and part of this resolve will be what council decides they're going to do. I know we need to have other parties involved for to basically foot the bill for some of the costs, hopefully. But it also has to do with council itself. What we're gonna decide to do with the road, and something that would help me to understand road standards. If we can have that information come back, because there's different standards of roads, right? So yeah. If we could have that as part of our next discussion about it. So yeah. It's understood, or maybe it's just for my benefit, but so I understand the different standards of roads as part of the discussion. But what it comes down to is what council is going to decide to do, even though we're going to look for some support.
Yeah, so that's what it would be, is because there is a couple of representatives from the road association. So if we could see what their expectations, and we can look at some of the, like Councillor Ellis says, with the road needs, you know, so what's needed by, you know, staff will give us an update on our side of things and see if there's any possibilities of moving forward with this. As far as the public meeting side of it, the public meeting, this gets it on to the agenda too, so people can see this. And if there's any questions or comments, I'm sure they'll roll in over the next week or two, just from watching this or seeing this on our agenda, because a lot of people are following it. So if I could get a motion that we get this on the table for a future meeting, and maybe we can meet with the representatives there, and staff can get something together, and that'll get something rolling. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councillor Webb. Any more comments? Oh, Dave, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one comment before we pass the motion. When we do come back, I would ask our supervisor of infrastructure and roads to perhaps bring back those two different road classifications for all of our benefits, along with Councilor Ellis's. Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion then? That's carried. Okay, thank you. With that, we can move into other business, and we have a couple things on here. So the first one, Councilor Ellis, Airbnb Rentals.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure everybody got the same email regarding Airbnb that I received. I think it went out to all the council. I did forward it to our acting CAO Bob Angioni for some clarification and input. So what the letter basically was talking about was a new property owner at the lake beside this gentleman. The place has become a rental, an Airbnb. He counted 15 people the last weekend at the residence, even though it was supposed to be COVID control. So I looked to Bob Angioni for some clarification and support. And so through you, Mr. Mayor, I would ask Bob for some comments.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, and I will offer some comments, and then I will ask for the chief building official to add his comments as well. But I did receive the email from Councilor Ellis, and I did see the ratepayer commenting regarding a situation with his neighbors, apparently renting out through an Airbnb situation. I did respond. I did some research and I did respond to that email, essentially indicating that the township does not license or regulate Airbnb or rental of cottages. Airbnb itself has some regulations that were in effect with respect to COVID-19. If they find, it is my understanding that if they find a situation where someone was infected with COVID-19, that particular property is delisted as a rental opportunity. At the bottom line is we do not regulate those situations. It is really a zoning matter. With respect to COVID-19, the regulations as established and the protocols as established by the provincial government with respect to gatherings do apply. And those are regulated by the provincial government. So I would ask the chief building official to, if I've got this wrong, clarify.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the CAO and I did have a conversation with the municipal solicitor on this subject. This is not a new subject. A lot of cottage properties were developed by farmers back 100 years ago to supplement income and help pay taxes. So we do have a long history in this province and specifically in this municipality of people renting out cabins and cottages and summer property as a means to pay taxes, pay mortgages, and cover costs of owning cottages. So our solicitor has reviewed with us. This is not an ongoing, this is not a new, but an ongoing issue throughout the province of Ontario. It has been challenged many times, and the general consensus is that the zoning allows the properties to be used as a summer residence. If the building or the cottage is rented or not rented, it's still being used under the zoning bylaw as a residential dwelling unit. There is one township, so most townships have pretty much backed away from it. The only thing that's changed is instead of people advertising in the wanted ads, they're now doing it through electronic means. So that's what's changed in the last few years. So there's one township right now that is experimenting with bringing in a licensing process for Airbnb, but they've had to retain the services of an outside contractor to look into this licensing. And our lawyer said within a few months, we should know whether they're going to continue with it or whether they're going to discontinue the licensing.
Okay. Yeah, and that's one thing with the Airbnb. They are really working on trying to keep things on the up and up, and sometimes it works for the better just by their own rules. But it is something that's creeping in everywhere in all the municipalities around us with these rentals and the numbers of people. Right now, I use it for camping this weekend, is if the numbers are more than 10, you can call the OPP. And if they're not all from the same household, they will be taken off the property. So right now, while these numbers are in place, take advantage of it because it just gives you some more options. So, Larry, did you have any more?
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think the gentleman was more looking for clarity around the zoning part of it versus whether it's a short-term rental business or, yeah. So he was looking for clarity around the zoning part of it as well.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can respond to that, Larry, it would be, Councilor Ellis, it would be the same as in town where people own a property and they rent it out as a house. So we have quite a percentage of houses in town with absentee landlords, and we have a vast majority of cottages on the lakes that are rented out. Under the zoning bylaw, they're still being used as a dwelling unit.
Okay. He was looking for some clarity. That's what he was looking for in his correspondence.
That question comes up numerous times with regards to people renting their cottages also, or renting properties. Like, you know, if somebody's having a problem, the first thing they come into is it zoned right? And I'm not sure, John, but we would have hundreds of these in the township, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
So right now it would be, the only thing I can say is the Airbnbs can be a problem because of how they're advertised, but they are strengthening some of the rules that they have, or toughening up on some of the things to make it, making it a little better as far as like Bob said with regards to reporting it to Airbnb if there's issues around it, and they will look into it and take care of it through their own rules. Okay, so is that okay, Larry?
Yeah, thank you. I believe Bob, our acting CAO, has already replied to the individual with some of the clarity regarding the zoning and so on. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilor Pomeroy, you have a couple of issues on there. I know one of them I brought up last week. I was talking to John about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Bob has the information on this, and I've had a couple new additions that I gave him the addresses for. And it's the same old thing every year, I guess. I don't know, if you get your grass cut twice a year by a contractor, it's still cheaper than buying a lawnmower. And no, that's what it boils down to. And another thing I mentioned to Bob is that, you know, if say Kyle, which usually cuts our grass for us, he goes out and charges $75 for a lawn or $100. I still think that there should be an administration fee from our office too, because we're looking after all these complaints. And I don't know, you'd have to probably set a price on it, but there should be something set there for us to recoup.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're right. That's what I've thought for years. But Wendell and then Hart.
Yeah, so when we bring back the fee and tariff bylaw after COVID, that was one of the proposed amendments to the fees and tariffs, that there would be an automatic administrative charge to those types of events.
That's good if we can do that. I didn't think we could. I asked for that a couple of years ago, but yeah, that would be a good thing. Hart?
Yeah, just what's the limit in terms of the grass height before we can go in and cut it? And we just did this a year or two ago. Was it 6 inches, 9 inches?
Maybe
Does
8.
anybody know? Ryan?
I don't know whether there is, because I know some of my contracts have 4 inches on them. So
Well,
that would be a fun cut.
I thought we just redid this bylaw like a year or two ago, and for some reason it's popping in my head something at like 9 inches. But anyways, never mind. There's a few properties around here, as Councilor Pomeroy said, that are well over 9 inches. So my question is, why aren't we going in and cutting those immediately?
Who's
Well,
that to? Who was that to?
Anyone.
How's the expert?
Well, okay.
Well, I guess,
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. First of all, yes, I believe in the bylaw, there is a height indicated, and I would double check it. It's somewhere between 6 and 9 inches. I would have to double check that. I know it's in the bylaw, and we will look at that. And bylaw enforcement is on the job, and I'll let the chief building official speak to that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor Martin. So Councilor Webb, we have been on a number of sites. We have been dealing with rats, raccoons, cows in sheds on residential properties, as well as long grass. There is only 2 of us in the building department right now, and we are working every other day, as well as at the present time, we're trying to follow up on the bylaw enforcement when we're able to do it. We have been in contact last week. Bob and I spoke with our municipal solicitor. It's a little bit tricky. It's not just a matter of going on site and automatically cutting grass. You could be charged with trespassing. So we wanted to make sure we had the proper paperwork. It was served properly on owners. And some of the ones we've been dealing with, there's other issues as well as long grass. And sometimes it's because people are not well. They've passed away and it's in estates, and communication is a little more difficult. But we do have a list we're dealing with, and we're in the process of speaking with our past bylaw enforcement officer. Bob and I had, Bob had made the phone call to try to get them back, and we're now looking at some other options.
Oh, sorry, John, I wasn't directed. I understand you guys are pulling double duty over there in building right now. So I didn't mean like that. Just quickly. So say we get a complaint about long grass, and in terms of you talked about the process we have to follow. So I phone in and complain about somebody's long grass. Can you take me through that process?
So what we've done in the past 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, when you send that in,
Yep.
we go on site, we take photographs, we do a little inspection note, we try to contact the owners, we leave our business cards with return phone information and why we were there. Then we're going to send out a letter. If we don't get a phone call back, we'll send out a letter registered in regular mail. We'll put an order to comply on it with a deadline date of when it has to be done. If we receive no response at that time, then we'll go on property with the contractor, cut the grass, and send them a bill. If it's not paid, then it goes on their taxes.
Thank you for that. And just that explanation was quite extensive. And I think it kind of echoes Councilor Pomeroy's point in that we probably should have an administrative fee here, being that you're sending registered letters and everything else to these people. We need to recoup some of these funds. So,
yeah. So, Councilor Ellis?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when is our bylaw enforcement guy expected to be back?
That's what we're working on right now. I think I talked to John last week about it, but I don't think we have a specific timeline when he's going to, if it's even going to be him, right, John? Or Bob? Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, sorry. Through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, we've reached out, as the chief building official indicated, we have reached out to our previous contractor. To this point, we've not received a response to our inquiry. As a result, we've reached out to another individual who may be able to assist us in that role. So we expect to have someone on the job hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Okay. So go ahead, Barry. The next one you had with garbage removal.
I think through you, Mr. Mayor, I think John has already been on to that one.
Okay.
There's like I say, there's just 2 new ones. I think that they've been in touch with those 2. At least I presume they have been. And by the way, John, thank you very much for the email showing that we have a new business going to start up at the HBM. And I think everyone will be looking forward to that. So thank you for that information.
Okay, Councilor Webb, you had an idea there in the last section about M&R and inviting M&R to a future meeting.
So you just want me to make a motion? Is that way?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
well, make a motion. We invite MNR to a meeting with council to discuss, I guess it would be the 3 issues we have outstanding with camping, the loader in the lake, and what's the last one we were just talking about? Oh, sorry,
that's with
road, yeah.
Yeah.
Fish hatchery road.
Okay. So moved by Councilor Webb that we invite M&R to a meeting. Do I have a seconder for that?
Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion about it? Moved by, seconded by Councilor Ellis. Councilor Pomeroy?
Yeah, I hope by inviting the MNR that we get more satisfaction than what we ever had. We've had personal meetings with them in the office, and you know how they went. I think we're going to have to get more than the MNR there. We should maybe have our MPP there too. Like I think it was discussed before, I think by Councilor Webb, that we have everyone involved. And with Councilor Ellis's point too, like everyone that uses the road and all the people that sit them down together. I know we want to start this, but you know what the answer is going to be, and I know what the answer is going to be right now. It's probably a waste of time to get the MNR, because there's still, MNR stands for Ministry of No Resources, and they won't commit to anything. So that's just my own personal feeling.
So if it's okay with Councilor Webb, we'll add MPP Dave Smith to the list. Hopefully it doesn't hold it up, because I know he's got a busy couple of months ahead of him here, as far as, I don't know where he's going to be or what he's going to be doing, but he did tell us last week that he's going to be, the meetings will be far and few between, possibly because of some of the appointments that he has. But anyways, if he was added to the list, that would probably help. Councilor Webb?
Yeah, it was Larry that made the point, and to it, Autonomy Power, I think you referenced them. Any of these people that we can get in, but I'd like to have the meeting sooner rather than later. So, I mean, ideally, I'm looking, July or early August for this meeting. So whoever we can get, but I don't want the meeting being put off till September, October, because one of the 2 or 3 that we've named can't come. So what I'd like us to do is to maybe set, a date range there of, like I said, sometime in July, early August, and see whoever we can get, obviously, MNR plus whoever else to that meeting, and work from there. We can always have future meetings, but let's start the process.
That's good. Okay. Did I see someone else's hand up? Sorry, I got sidetracked. A bird hit my window. So anyways, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. You got ahead of me there. I did have my hand up, but that's okay. I know when you're looking at a screen, you can't see everybody. But I'm going back when I had my hand up in reference to our bylaw enforcement. So just so I'm clear, when our fire chief and deputy chief, I'm just trying to think of ways to take some of the load off our building department and their other bylaw enforcement officers. Was that not part of their responsibilities? I'm just asking the question.
Yeah. John or Bob, go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Martin. Bylaw enforcement, as of this moment, remains with the building department. There was a proposal to potentially add that into a deputy chief role when we were prepared to move forward with a full-time position in that role.
Thank you for that, Bob.
I think at one time we had 3, like we had, because I know Boyd used to be bylaw enforcement too. So at one time we did have a bunch of staff that were into that, but I know we're thinned out a little bit here. So just another thought there anyways. But yeah, we do have to get moving on with this because we're into.
Yeah, thank you, Bob, for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Councillor Webb, you had the motion and Councillor Ellis seconded it. Was there more comments with regards to that, Councillor Pomeroy?
Yeah, is there any, through you, Mr. Mayor, is there any way that we can still appoint someone else on staff for bylaw enforcement at this time? Because we are getting behind on it. And you have said before, you know, Boyd was on it, and I'm sure that Ray was on it at one time too, our fire chief, so back years ago. So just for to ease the burden in this time.
Yeah, Bob, you,
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we certainly can appoint other members of staff. If that is the desire of council, staff can review that and see whom else we can add to that roster.
if you could make that part of your management meeting this week, Bob, maybe you can come up with something. Anyways, Hart, you had something?
Well, it was kind of to that issue, but I don't know. I'll bring it up next meeting. I know where you're going with that. I just we'll leave that to the management meeting, I guess.
Okay. All right, Councillor Pomeroy.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it to the management meeting. So here we are shuffling this off to the management meeting. And we want, you know, we want to ease the burden on them now. I just don't get it. We gotta do something, because now it'll be, what, another 2 weeks before we have another meeting. You're into July and we only have one meeting. So anyway, I've made my point. Either do it now or.
Yep. So what's your thoughts, Bob? You want to do it? You want to appoint the staff? Why don't we just appoint a couple of people to it? Then council can run it if we want, and we'll just, whether you have the time or not, you can figure that out later. But we can appoint a couple of more staff members to bylaw enforcement if you like. Is there a process to go through?
Well, through you, Mayor Martin, of course, the appointment process is via bylaw. So if before we bring forward any other members of staff, obviously there are logistics to discuss about who can actually take this role on and how it would happen. I don't think it's wise to just randomly appoint members of staff. I think we need to examine this and see how that work would be done.
That's right. I think there's training that goes with it too. So anyways, so I would suggest that it goes to management and comes back. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Pomeroy. It is frustrating. They do have another option on the table as far as trying to get our previous company back. You know, they would be able to step right in and start right up, I would think. Or I guess if it's the same company, they're already bylawed by us, are they not, Bob?
That's correct. No, that's correct.
So we can get it moving quicker that way, probably, Barry, than the other way. But we do need to get moving on it. I had the same calls probably as you did, and I am frustrated. I told John how long it takes. By the time you get to it, they'll, you know, they get through the summer with 2 or 3 cuts, or you know, things get prolonged. So
Yeah, it's the process that slows us down. I mean, we don't have a bylaw enforcement officer now. We never signed that agreement or re-signed it. And are we getting the same company back again, Bob?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, that was the intent. And in fact, we did have the company back before COVID came upon us, at which point we suspended that person coming into the office. He has not been back since. And as reported at a previous council meeting, we have invited them back. We've had conversations with respect to having them work remotely and investigating a possibility of handling the issues that way without having him actually come into the building. We've put that proposal to them. They have not yet responded.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder. I don't think, were we all in favor of inviting M&R? I'm still going back to that there. Did we get all in favor? We'll do it anyways. That's carried. So, all right then. We don't have any bylaws. Was there something else in other business? Oh, sorry, go ahead. I see all the hands up. So I'll start with Dave and then Larry and then Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just three quick ones. Matheson property. This has been ongoing for some time. So what brought it to light again last week was there were about 47 pictures put on Facebook of the Matheson property of all the wildlife and all the trails. It was the person that put them on did a very good job. There's nature, there's deer, there's beavers, there's swans and baby swans and everything. They're wonderful pictures. But one of the things that we've neglected to do for a number of years is get that plaque back on that stone in the history of the Matheson property. The stone was, the plaque was taken off. For some reason, it was lost by the township. They can't find it. I think it's prudent that we put that plaque back on there. The property was given to the municipality by the Mathesons, and we put the plaque on there, and I think it should go back up. Now, I don't have the actual wording in my head, but I'm sure there's a Matheson file somewhere. Brian Grattan looked after that file at one time. So I'm just asking staff when they get time to try and research back into that and get that plaque back up on that stone. I think it's important. The other thing is, and it also had to do with our deputy clerk, Grattan's file, was the signage for the Rotary Park. Council gave direction some time ago that we put signs up for the Rotary Park. And that's one of the things that just falls off the tracks because council does get busy and staff gets busy. So I'd like to see that get back on the books.
Was there something else too, Dave, or is that it?
One thing just for information, I guess. I didn't do anything about it. I got the quarry that they swim on at North School Road. It's all posted with private property. I don't think Drains own it. Somebody owns the property. There was 12 cars there last Wednesday, and we are in COVID mode here. I just bring that forward for information because the neighbors over there are putting up with 12 vehicles at a time, again parked on the side of the road. And we're not supposed to be in groups of that many anyway, besides the fact that they're on private property. So I just bring that forward for information. And if it comes forward again, I guess I'll just have to pick up the phone and get a hold of police. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, there's some good comments there. I think Councillor Ellis, you had something, and then Councillor Pomeroy.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment, first of all, on what Deputy Mayor Giroux has commented on the Matheson property. I'm trying to remember that sign, and I know it's disappeared before or get damaged. I'm not quite sure there, but I'm wondering if a different style of replacing the sign, as in some solid pillars with a sign attached to it, that the vandalism probably maybe be prevented. Just a comment for that item. I have a couple items here I wanted to bring forward that are in other business. We all received an email from a resident on the second line where, in several pictures, where they'd done their duty and cleaned up a lot of litter off the second line. The majority of it were liquor bottles, wine bottles, and beer bottles. So they were looking for some support from the municipality in the reflection of some signage for littering. And I don't think that that's asking too awful much. I know we can't put signs on every road, but that is a heavy traffic area. And I would also ask that that could be a topic at your police services board meeting. A little bit of attention there from the policing. And when we talk about litter signing and bylaw signs, a few years back, through a former road superintendent at the time, there was a request for litter bylaw signs to be placed. Our main artery, County Road 48, the 6th line of Belmont-Methuen, are heavy arteries to our transfer station. And it's very, very noticeable, especially after a long weekend, the debris that's been splattered around our side roads. A few years back, like I say, through a conversation with the previous road superintendent, as well as our attendant at the 6th line transfer station, he has asked for some bylaw signage regarding covering your debris that you're bringing, covered loads. He says he doesn't have anything there to support what he's going to tell them. So he's looking for some signage there, and I don't think it's asking too much for some littering bylaw signage to be placed maybe in those 3 locations on the roads.
Okay.
I'll leave that for council's discussion.
Yeah, I see Ryan writing down there. There's several signs that we've asked for at the transfer station itself. So you can take note of that anyways, Ryan, and see what we can do. As far as any county roads, if you think it should be forwarded to the county, as far as the littering, we do have signs that we did put up years ago with the fine on them at the end of the 8th towards on the boundary road there between Trent Hills and ourselves. I'm not sure if they're still there, and we have a couple other areas where we did put them up. Whether we still have people going there to pick garbage up, some people can't read, so so there is some signs out there, and we can duplicate those signs as far as for some of the other spots if you think that would help.
Well, I know we have to get permission or get the county's buy-in for the county road, but when you enter County Road 48 from the village of Havelock, if there was some signage right there to indicate littering and the fine according to the bylaw. Again, the 6th line is another, it's so noticeable after a long weekend. And as Kevin points out, well, there's no signage. We've asked for signage in the past. He would like some right at the 6th line transfer to support. So
Okay.
I'll leave that. The last thing I have is I'm sure others on council have had some calls regarding this gypsum moth caterpillar. There's lots of them around. So I had a couple of calls. One of the gentlemen even went as far as done his homework and told me that some even have a program in place. I just got off the phone prior to the start of my council meeting, talked to Grant Ashton. Grant Ashton says the county have no program. It used to be left to the province. The province don't get involved anymore. Basically let Mother Nature do its thing. So other than a municipality on its own, and there are products there, but I just wanted to bring that up to for council's information, because I'm sure everybody else has probably had some of the questions as well.
In the early 80s, I was involved in aerial spraying with our previous building inspector. It was one of those things around Cashbog Lake. I was helping putting balloons up to mark off people's property that didn't want sprayed. It was a nightmare. Nowadays, to say that you're going to send an airplane over spraying chemicals, I think will be good luck on that. So I think the thing we could do is start, maybe a lot of them are using these natural things in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be, the caterpillars will be going into the next stage. Once they go to the moth stage, there is traps for them. You know, you can catch a few of them anyways and help it a little bit, but I think it's a process we're going to go through here that's going to be ugly next year. I think the trees are good for 2 years, so if it happens this year and next year, they won't be back the next year. So that's usually the way it works, is they die after 2 years of gypsy moth. But the process of the early 80s to the process of 2020, it'll probably be the natural remedies as far as wrapping your tree with the tape and putting these traps out to catch the moths. And if we could put people in, you know, direct people to where they can get it. I know some people have lines on them. We could maybe help through our social media, but as far as the township getting involved, it's the same as the dog strangling weed there that we've been talking about. It's just about as bad to some people as poison ivy. So go ahead, Larry.
Yeah. Maybe some of this information, if we could put it on the website, because more and more people follow or look for information on our website. And regarding the dog strangle vine, I would ask maybe if Ryan could give us an update there. He had some information back.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. So I received another email back from the county, and that they had advised the resident that they were going to add that to their list this year for spring. So that issue has been resolved.
Thank you, Ryan.
Okay. Barry, you had something, and then Hart.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Giroux, he mentioned the plaque at Matheson property. I know back, I guess the year that probably Andy didn't make it as the deputy, we were supposed to have ordered a new plaque probably the year after. So I mean, that would be eight years ago. And then I'm sure that the permission was given to order a new plaque, because he had one that we had got and he lost it. So we in turn ordered a new one. At least I thought we had. I don't know whether it would be anywhere in the file that you could find that out. But then on to the next one. I have another lady here wanting to know what our noise bylaw was. Maybe you could tell us that, Bob. It's an older lady in Havelock, and I think she must be getting crusty, because she's a well-liked lady, but somebody's playing the radio and she can hear it in her house.
Well, through you, Mayor Martin, we do have a noise bylaw. Admittedly, I don't have it memorized, but I'll certainly look it up. I believe the noise bylaw, I believe activity can start in our bylaw. I believe it's 5 a.m. and go until dusk, approximately 9 or 10 p.m. But I will double check that and get those numbers for you.
Well, can you get the decibels too, please? Because I know she's going to read the bylaw and say, well, how loud can they play the radio?
I will check the bylaw and see what it says, for sure.
Okay, and the other thing I had was Ontario East Convention. Have we heard anything on that? Has it been canceled yet? Because, there's a bunch of us that usually go to that, but I'm not too fussy on going this year, with the circumstances the way they are. And maybe the rest of the council is, of the same. And if we are, maybe we could deregister and save some money.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen anything on that, Bob, but it might be something to follow up, because I'm sure it won't be happening.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, I agree. I have not seen a formal cancellation of that conference. However, I would think it's highly unlikely that it will proceed. So we will investigate a refund or investigate how they're going to handle that.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Well,
Okay, Hart?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just in terms of the invasive species, it's the year's 2020, so I think we're just supposed to politely ask them to leave the municipality. That's about as far as we can go with it.
I'm not even touching that one.
Yeah.
Thanks,
That was,
Art.
that was a bit of a groaner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, one other thing, sorry for Deputy Mayor Giroux and the rest of them that were asking about the Matheson property. Ryan, I know I saw it in his report earlier, is working on the signage, new signage for the Matheson property. I haven't seen his plan in terms of what the design's gonna look like, but I was just thinking, Ryan, in terms of this plaque that the rest of council is asking about, is there a way maybe if we got that, a new plaque, we could incorporate that in the signage, the gateway signage for the property?
Mr. Mayor, absolutely. I was just actually looking through the old file for the Matheson property, trying to see if I can track down a photo or something that was maybe taken. But yeah, certainly I can look into that and incorporate that into this project as well.
And just so the rest of the council knows, Ryan's been working on the project, so hopefully by the end of this summer, we'll have kind of a big gateway sign there on the entrance into the Matheson property, so.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we're all long overdue for a Matheson meeting, and the challenges we've had. Hopefully in the next month or so, we can get something going on that, because the plaque is something that long overdue, and we did talk about other things. I don't know whether it was Larry or somebody had mentioned there was options of even, we talked about etching in a stone, so it's not on a plaque, it's right into the stone. So there's some options there, but we need to get that done. You're right, Deputy Mayor Giroux. We need to get the plaque up there and recognize what the property represents. So with that, if that's the end of new business, I'll get a motion to receive the report. Moved by Councilor Webb and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. So we have no bylaws, so that we do need a confirming bylaw here for today's meeting before we go to closed session. So to close out this meeting, moved by Councilor Webb for the confirming bylaw and seconded by Councilor Ellis. All in favor? Carried. Our next meeting is July 6th at 9:30. I don't think we'll be in the council chamber by then, but I'm expecting, if things keep going the way they're going, that we may be able to go back to the stage that we were at when we went into this, where it won't be open to the public, but we possibly could get back to social distancing within the chamber in the next month or so. A lot of municipalities are talking that their offices probably won't be open till September. But that being said, things are changing rapidly. We'll see what happens. So we are going to go into closed session. I'll get a motion to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Councilor Pomeroy and seconded by Councilor Webb. All in favor? Carried. And we'll look for an email from Bianca to go into the closed in approximately 5 minutes. And I will ask everyone to, if you're not able to be alone, to use headphones. And I will do a roll call as far as swearing that you're alone during the next part of the meeting. That's a new part of closed on the virtual meeting. So with that, we'll talk to you in a little